Here's my story. My wife and I have been married just over 8 years, together 9, 2 children, hers, 14 and 15, all of which I love with all my heart. We didn't have a lot when we first got together. Over the years we built what I thought was a good stable home. And all our friends and family looked upon us as essentially the perfect couple. I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. My wife does suffer from bouts of depression and panic attacks, which over the years became more frequent. I tried to get her to the doctors, or counseling, but she was never willing and depended on her tablets to get her through. We were both employed. She passed her driving test. She got a promotion at work, and then the problems started. She became very emotionless towards me. All of the signs of infidelity were there, including strange hours at work, not wanting to spend time with me on days off, passwords changed, putting lock on her phone and sleeping with it, basically not letting it out of her sight, more care and appearance, lack of affection, and the list goes on. I confronted her several times, to which she always denied, albeit not very convincingly. Returned home from work one day and she told me she didn't know what she wants anymore and that she needed space and was going away for a while. Next day suitcase was packed, she left without talking. I tried, no rules were set in place at all, and the last thing she said before she left was have faith in me. I stayed with the children for several days before I decided I couldn't do this anymore. Her father came to look after them and I moved out. It's been 3 weeks now and I still know just as less now as I did. She is at home now but rarely stays in with the kids and sleeps round her friends almost every night, whilst kids stay with grandparents. Last time I saw her, very briefly, her rings were off. Did send her message few days earlier asking her to keep rings on until she either met someone else or we divorced. She kept hugging me and crying, and then had the audacity to ask me if I was seeing anyone, then called me a liar when I said of course not, and said that people were telling her how well I was doing, how much weight I had lost, not through exercise, through stress, how good I was looking and going out and generally trying to rebuild my life. To which she seemed almost annoyed. I don't know what to do from here. I really love my wife dearly and would like to hear similar stories. Advice and general input. Would a woman leave her kids with their stepfather to be with another man for 2 weeks? Will she ever admit to affair? Will she feel remorse? Have I really got it all that wrong? Comments. You need to ask yourself whether you want to find out what's happening and try to fix it. Try to fix it, only, or walk away. If you want to find out if infidelity is involved, get a VAR. Wait a few weeks and you'll have all the evidence you need. If you can guess her online passwords, that will help, and so will checking phone records, but nothing works like a VAR. My advice is to drop divorce papers now. You can always cancel the process. No reason you can't drop D papers while the VAR is doing its job either. She either doesn't respect you, or she is involved with another man, and most likely both. Human beings respond best to situations of calamity. You must bring calamity to her doorstep in order for her to feel any desire to change. Dropping D papers brings her calamity, if and only if she has any will left to try fixing the relationship with you. You cannot be at her beck and call. You cannot be manipulated by her emotions, nor should you accept any apology short of her begging you. You must come off as a strong man who's cashing in his chips and walking away with his pride still intact. If she feels guilt and tries to pursue you, then things are on your terms. Then you can demand no contact, all passwords, counseling, and anything you want. This is the only chance you have. Where you are sucks, dude, no doubt about it. Keep us in the loop and we as a community will try to help any way we can. OP responds, I feel talking divorce papers is a little early yet. After all, I don't know 100% that there is anyone else as yet. 99% sure though. Trying the 180 at the moment. See if that helps and what reaction I get. I'm just so confused. All the signs of cheating are there and more, but nothing seems to make sense. Why did she seem so unhappy last time I saw her? Why did she tell me she wanted to kill herself but she's too gutless to do it? I just don't know how to help her or what to do for best, but one thing for sure is she won't talk to me. I'll take your input on board and I take the children out once a week for dinner or cinema. Sorry, forgot to mention that. Thank you. I still think I need to do NC to see what kind of reaction I get, if any. I do believe I have been burying my head in the sand, no, and through the relationship for fear of finding out the truth. And dare I say it, I have been acting like a doormat around her for many months now. Her parents are divorced, but I know her mother isn't very happy with the way she has done things. And her father is so soft around her, I don't think it would matter what she done, he would always forgive her and be on her side. It's been 4 days now with no contact. I think I am going to get the ball rolling with D papers though. Having read many posts on here, I do believe she has been doing her grieving for the marriage for many months now, and it just came like a bombshell to me. Just so gutted. You think you know someone for all those years. Resentment and hate are starting to creep in and I'm fighting with all my heart not to hate her. Again, silly, I know. I think the reason she has never fessed up about the other man is, firstly, to save my feelings and to protect hers. And secondly, and probably more relevant, is she would hate the fact that friends, acquaintances, and family, hers and mine, would look down upon her for doing such a thing. So, I think she is protecting herself from all that aggressive. 2 months down the line, oh guess what guys, I just started seeing someone. Yeah right. What's the best way to do this? Do I text her and tell her that I'm getting the ball rolling with divorce? Do I wait until she wants to meet with me and then mention it? Who knows when that could be, few days, few months. Do I act like I don't care when in fact I really do? If through text, do I say it and end it with take care? So many questions, and I'm so sorry, but my mind is in a really bad place. Update. Just texted her and asked if we could meet to talk today. I know it's her day off. And she replied with, I'm at hospital today. I then text back, in hospital or appointment. She still hasn't replied and has been over an hour now. I've rang her mom and she said she did have an appointment today. I've then texted the wife again and have said I only wanted to meet you today for no other reason than to talk about divorce proceedings and which road we should go down. Still no response. Just walked down to the courts and gathered all the forms to start the ball rolling with divorce. Kids know nothing of what she's doing or where she has been staying. They've broke up for summer, and the boy will be staying most of it round his cousins. And the girl spends most nights round her friends now, which gives the wife the freedom to do exactly what she wants for the next 7 weeks anyway. The reason I moved out was I couldn't cope with the kids seeing me in such a bad place, and felt like I was waiting for the inevitable. So took the initiative to move out. Wish I hadn't have now, and I know it was a mistake. When I told her I was leaving, she sent me a text saying, please don't, I really need your help right now, which really bothered me cause up until then she completely cut me off and was sending her daughter texts like, I hope you'll understand one day. I felt like I was a live-in babysitter whilst she was getting her jollies from someone else. And I suppose I thought me moving out would prompt her to come back home and be with the kids, who were obviously worried about her state of mind. She didn't come back and it kind of backfired on me. I don't own the house, have no access to her car, no access to her phone. Okay, just text her and told her I'm posting the papers in the morning. She just said okay, and what's the rush with divorce? What does that mean? Update. She rang me last night and it all got very bitter. I was very emotional and told her I loved her and couldn't believe she was doing this. She told me she kissed some random bloke 2 years ago on a night out and she has never forgiven herself for it. Took me by surprise, and then she said, is that what you want to hear? I said obviously not, and then she said, well, that was a lie, it never happened. Was she looking to see how I'd react? We left it with I'm going round the house Friday morning for a chat with her. I did give her ultimatum through text saying, do you want us to be over, yes or no, and I don't want to hear I don't know. She wouldn't answer. I know I'm being her doormat once again and hate myself for it. New updates, get ready for this, have found out through her daughter and the in-laws that she has been having an affair since September. She's even had him in our house in our bed and has introduced the kids to him. Also been told that they have been looking at houses together. Apparently, he's separated from his wife and has a young child. I've told her that I now know through text. And here's the head funk. She is still denying it and telling me not to listen to anyone, and I've got it all wrong. What's the deal with that? Heads in bits, but finding out more and more through the families and friends. Floodgates have opened. Do I tell his wife? Moral issues. Don't know how I'd feel about that. All I know about him is he works in the same office as my wife. Just had a text of the wife telling me not to start any trouble cause if she loses her job it will affect the kids more than anyone. Had talk with her today. She admitted being unfaithful emotionally since September. Took a lot, but this is the blunt of it. She loves this man and is deeply sorry for how she has behaved since then. She admits it's all her fault and even said to me that she knows she is going to regret this one day. She is unsure about settling in new home with him but wants to try. I asked her straight out if she loves him and she said yes. Of course, I don't believe that this is just an emotional relationship, but in a kind of twisted way I do believe that she is trying to save me from more hurt by not admitting that they are sleeping together. All she keeps saying to me is what a perfect husband I've been and I'm not to blame, it's all her and she never deserved me. I know a lot of you guys will strongly disagree with this, but I don't want to make it easy for her to hate me. I could cause a crap storm, make her lose her job, tell her lover's wife, and cause all sorts of crap, but where would that get me really? I've made a decision, and that is to completely drop off the face of the earth as far as she is concerned. I do love her and hurting deeply, but was there ever a chance of reconciliation? I don't think so. My last words to her were, it's you that's got to look back at yourself in the mirror every morning knowing how emotionally fragile she is. I know it will affect her. I know most of her friends have told her that she is making the wrong decision, but like I say, she got to live with it. In time I know I will heal and I will always stay in contact with the children. Always knew deep down that there was someone else. Waited for kids to get home from school and explained to them what was happening. Wanted to explain that I wasn't abandoning them like their mom had and that I was literally 5 minutes away and that all they had to do was call me if they needed anything at all. Stayed in contact throughout all of this and wasn't an easy decision to leave. One thing that sticks in my mind. She asked me why I never fought if I really thought she was having an affair. What could I have done? The way I see it is I shouldn't have to fight for anything if she truly loved me. Divorce settlement doesn't even come into it. Neither of us have savings. No joint accounts or mortgage. As for telling the other person, what would it achieve really? I've already stated this. I would never want to get back with my wife just because I ducked things up for her. I think it's a trap I have fell in, but hey, we can't help how and who we are. Still no contact from other man's wife. Done something stupid the other day, went down to their place of work and ended up hitting the OM. Did feel better after. Wife was on the phone to me minutes after it happened, shouting and swearing at me. They have now moved in together in a house 20 minutes away from me with the kids. Wife has now fell out and frightening all of her family because she didn't like the fact that I knew as much as I did. What kind of woman walks out on her kids, her animals which she cherished, and falls out with her family? I just hope she realizes soon what a terrible person she has been, and really has a hard time with the guilt. The way I see it, one of two things are going to happen. She stays with this bloke for several months and now it's all out in the open and the excitement of the affair is over, the relationship crumbles, or they live happily ever after. Finding it hard today. Just seen stepdaughter and she has said wife and other man are now living together in new house and they plan on having the kids back there from Saturday onward. Heads in pieces just thinking of all the things the wife said leading up to the separation. It wasn't me, I was perfect, she never deserved me. I mean duck, we even went abroad together in May. She had already made the decision to keep the affair going. Why would she still want 7 days away with me in another country? How can she just set up new house and partner within a month of us separating? All the animals, 3 cats and a dog, are being relocated tomorrow. None of it makes sense. Will they really work? Will she ever feel guilty? Just wish I could turn a switch and all of my feelings for her would disappear. Just so bitter over everything. I still love her, which doesn't help cause even though I know R isn't on the cards. How could it ever be? She has managed to make this marriage unsalvageable. I hate myself for ever loving her how I did. I hate myself for always being there for her. And I hate myself for being such a doormat. Which I know now is how this all ended up this way. I just want to sleep for 6 months and everything go away. Thank you all for your input, it does help. One day I'm angry, the next depressed and crying. Emotions are all over the place. It's been a week now since last contact with wife. She was never honest about what exactly happened. She said it started as an emotional affair last summer and they hadn't got physical until January, and she is still telling me that they haven't slept together as yet. I mean, come on, why still all the cloak and dagger? She knows I know she had him stop over at our house. Cos daughter told me, and she told me that he stopped on the city. She knows I know they're moving in together, but again she still said that she was going to be on her own for a while. I asked her straight out if she loved him and she said yes. Why after all this is, she's still refusing to state the obvious. She just expects me to walk off into the sunrise, forget about her and let her move on. She also told me that this could be one of the biggest mistakes she has ever made and she feels she will be all alone, give it 3 or 4 months. I just don't get her. OMW has been told now, had a good long conversation with her. Her fella done exactly the same as my wife. Like told her it wasn't her, it was his job, and stressed, didn't know how he felt anymore. He left his wife the day before my wife left me. So per planned, haven't heard a thing from the wife, was expecting a barrage of texts. But nothing. Weeks later, have filed for divorce. Wife rang me yesterday and asked me to stop contacting the OMW because she said she is going through enough at the minute and has a baby to deal with as well. Can you believe the audacity? She was also crying on the phone and kept asking me again and again if I hate her, and she kept saying she wants to be on her own. I told her I didn't hate her but really don't want to hear from her anymore, and to leave me alone. She's made her choice a long time ago, and watched me humiliate myself over and over. She just kept saying I'm sorry and crying, then I hung up. Head games again. No, I shouldn't have answered phone. Just spent few hours with stepdaughter. She was saying how happy her mom seems. This just confirms to me that when the wife speaks to me it's all lies and manipulation. Just don't understand, when we divorce, we got no assets. Mortgage, joint loans or anything that ties us really. Why still all the mind games? On a lighter note, had drink round friends the other day and met a lovely woman. She asked for my number and been texting each other since. She's asked to date this weekend. Onward and upwards. Just wish I could turn these feelings for my wife off. It will take some time. Story 2. I've been together with my partner for almost 7 years, and we have a beautiful 3.5-year-old child together. I'm 30 and my partner is 34. We've been going to therapy for the last 3 years to help us sort out problems we've had in our relationship, and our current therapist is the 4th one we're seeing, and the best one in both of our opinions. During the time spent in therapy, I've gotten a much clearer view of our situation and of some of the key factors behind causing it. On both of our parts, we've gotten stuck in the very traditional active, passive spiral. in which I am the active one and my partner the passive shutting down one. The area in our relationship where the problems manifest are intimacy and sleeping together. There is very little of both. Now years later I can see how I've contributed to the current state of things. When we first met, I fell in love with my partner, but she was unsure about her feelings and it continued for years. She didn't know if she wanted a relationship with me or if she liked me in that way. But I wanted to be with her and like a little puppy took whatever treatment I got with loving eyes. I'm not blaming her for any of this. I'm the one who lacked the backbone to make a stand at that time, and I was just so afraid of losing her if I was adamant about my wants and wishes. And I naively hoped that things would work out like in fairy tales. So, then years later when I woke up to the fact that I'm unhappy and want a change in our relationship. We had already established a way of being together. And I think she is comfortable with the way things are. At the time she wants to focus on work and our child, not our relationship. It's taken me a long time to get to the point where I've found that missing backbone, and I've finally been able to say aloud that without a change our relationship is not going to survive. So, this is where we are. My partner is not willing to give any promises about making a change, but she has promised to try. So far after 6 months of trying things haven't improved. There was a 2-month activity spurt, but now things are pretty much back to how they used to be. She says she needs more time, and how much time is something she has no answer for. So right now, I'm feeling my choices are either to stick around and give her the time she needs, which could be months, years, decades, or something that never happens, or state that these terms are unacceptable and either we find a working solution or start preparing for a separation. I'm just at loss with all this. I love her and I know it in my heart she and I could be happy together. And I want to grow old together and have more children, but at the same time, I'm having a hard time believing in myself and that I could achieve a permanent change in our dynamics. And in her, that she'd be truly willing to put our relationship first and put the needed effort in it. 2.5 weeks ago I told her that I would like to continue the last discussion we had in our therapy for a little bit. That there is something I wish to tell her. She told me now is not a good time. During the following week I asked 3 times if now a good time, and it would be never was. Then I told her that I'd email her my thoughts and asked for her to reply. After a week with not reply I told her I was hurt and disappointed and felt like I am not as important to her as other things in her life. That she'd never treat friends, work colleagues like that, or accept same kind of behavior from me. I asked that he'd reply to it in the next few days and she promised. Now 3 days later I've gotten no response. Right now, I'm feeling like this is the last straw. In my eyes it reflects well how our dynamics works at the moment, and I'm feeling like this is a moment in which I need to make a stand. But I am still a little lost with my backbone and unsure about the appropriate level of response. I want to tell her that I know she has a lot on her plate right now, but this cannot go on and that I am not going to tolerate her treating me this way. If she wants to give us a shot, she needs to start respecting my wishes and needs and treating me better. Does that sound overreacting to the situation or like an appropriate response? Well, we had a lengthy talk last week and a follow-up talk 2 days later. The discussion was good on both times, though it did not offer any resolution to our situation, just little more clarity. I was able to define and set one more boundary and that felt good. At the moment she wants more time to work on herself to be able to work on our relationship, and how much time that is, she can't say. I told her that I understand that she works hard with herself and I'll do my best to give her more time, but this situation has been going on so for long. I'm getting close to the end of the road. I too cannot give any promises about how long I can wait. We'll try our best, and if that's not enough, then there's nothing more we can do. At the moment I'm not feeling all that optimistic about our relationship. Last night we had a small discussion after she rejected an invitation I made to cuddle. And she feels that intimacy should not be responsibilities in a relationship. I agree with her on some level, but this is something we disagree on to some extent as well. I don't want anyone to be intimate with me because she or he has to, but because they want to. In my eyes it's both parties' responsibility in a relationship to take care of themselves, and they're part of the relationship enough to keep intimacy at a level both can be content on, even if it is a compromise. I put a lot of work and effort into responding to her wishes and needs because I feel that to be my responsibility and honor as her partner. And I expect the same from her. In my eyes, if you want to be free of responsibilities and chains, you better stay out of relationships of any kind. All relationships contain responsibilities. Well, we agreed to talk about that at MC the next time we go. Things are moving forward. At our last therapy session, I said that I am not ready to stay in this relationship if there is not continuous effort on both parts to make this relationship better than what it is at the moment. And that at the moment it feels to me like my partner still needs something before she can start working on us. The therapist continued from there, and the end result was that my partner told out she is really tired and just struggling to keep it all together. Which is what I've been telling her too. Today my partner took a sick leave from work. For the start she got 2 weeks off, but I'm hoping that it continues as long as it needs for her to get her energy back. I'm glad we were able to discuss this in therapy. It wasn't enough for her to hear me say it. She needed a professional to tell her to rest. I don't know how or where things go from here, but this is a start. If she puts enough effort into getting her life back on track, we might have a chance. Edit. We also agreed in therapy to take a 1.5-month vacation from our relationships, which means no trying, no effort, no negative stuff during that time. To me, vacation right now would mean making the distance that is between us visible. And we agreed to do that. We'll live more separate lives for the upcoming month and a half, and we'll sleep in separate bedrooms. Last night was the first night, and I slept better than in ages. I don't see our situation as being separated in the same household. To me, this is making the distance that has been between us visible. We mostly just sleep in our bed, and if I want to get close before sleep time, it usually is a very short hug. She rarely wants to get close before going to sleep. To me that hurts, because the moments we go to bed together are sometimes the first moments of the day when we have time for us. I understand she perceives it differently. She sees it as time for us, but I can't look at it like that. If I want time for myself, I go to bed alone, not with another person, and that's what we're doing now. My partner was on an out-of-town hotel vacation for 4 days and returned yesterday evening. This break from her has been a real eye-opener. I hadn't realized how much her fatigue had influenced our daily life. In the 4 days she was gone, I was able to clean the house and get a lot of stuff organized. This has given me lots to think about, mainly, why does her fatigue influence me so much? Also, this change in our situation has made me think about my well-being as well. For the time being, I really need to focus on basics, which are our child, getting enough sleep and getting enough exercise to stay in good spirit. The first week has went well, and with my new focus I'm feeling better than in a long time. Also, sleeping in separate bedrooms has felt really good. I've slept better than in ages. I've been also thinking about our future during the last week. We are engaged to be married, and I find myself unsure whether I want to get married to her. My main issue at this time is that she feels that if things don't work out between us, we can always divorce. Even though I am not part of the church, I still feel marriage to be sacred. I only want to get married once in my life, and if I do get married, I want to know that we're both in this for life. I am fine with living engaged for the rest of our lives if that's what it takes, but I am not ready to be married to someone who feels divorce to be an option. Other thing I've been thinking about is our hopes to get a second child. My partner really badly wants another child, but I am concerned about a lot of things. The birth of the first child has brought a long break in the intimacy between us, and so far, we haven't made any visible progress to mend that break. My main concern is that this will happen again with the second child. Also, at the moment, with no concrete change in our situation, I don't think we are ready for the second child. During this fall I've had many mind-blowing moments of clarity, and I now feel like I have a better understanding of my boundaries and also of my role and how things have gotten in this bad shape. With having a better understanding of my own boundaries, I've realized that I don't know her boundaries, and I don't know if she's willing to work on a compromise between our boundaries, hopes divided by etc. And I understand that her fatigue, depression, whatever it is, has prevented us from moving forward. I think that at the moment she is just struggling to survive with day-to-day life, and there's no room in her head for our relationship. I hope she gets well, and after that we can maybe again get back on working on us. I think that's something we need to discuss in the therapy next time. 2 years later. Now 2 years later our relationship is over, and I now live in a new home. Our child resides officially with me and lives a little over half of the time with me, and my ex pays me child support. My ex is waiting for a new baby with another person, and they now live together. The final catalyst for our separation was the surprise news of her pregnancy. A lot of stuff has happened fast, and it has certainly taken its toll on me. And it'll take time for the wounds to heal. Post 1. The first Christmas. I've now lived 2 months in my new home. It's a beautiful home, and maybe one of the few good things to come out of all this. I could imagine living here for a long time, at least until my little one is all grown up. I want to provide him with a place which he can call home, a place where he can grow roots in. It is something that has been very important to me, to have such a place. And I'm sensing that in this he is very much like me. Already after 2 months he has his own favorite place at the new dinner table and his favorite place on my old college couch, which is now our new couch. It's heartwarming. The fast and sudden separation put me in a rough spot financially. But fortunately I have lots of support in my life. I took a loan from my mother to make it through the start, and hopefully I can pay her back soon. During this year, I do take good care of my finances, and I am hopeful that I will be debt-free next Christmas. My friends have also been a tremendous help. They have listened, helped with moving all our belongings to the new home, checked up on me frequently, offered advice and furniture, and listened even more. The support I have received has been humbling to say the least. I have never felt this thankful for the people I have in my life, and I feel a bit ashamed that it took such a crisis to realize what I have. Here where I live, Christmas Eve is the big thing. It's when Santa comes and brings the presents. This year I spent it alone, and my child was with my ex for that day and came home on the Christmas day. I can now understand more deeply how rough it can be to be alone on Christmas. It's the holiday when everyone is with their families and loved ones, together. For me, it was also the first day I was able to take time for myself after the crisis started, and to be alone with all my thoughts and emotions. In total silence. It was pretty crushing, but it felt needed as well. I've been hurt badly, and I know I need time and space to let it all sink in. I have lots of tears that still need to be shed and lots of emotions to go through. During the holidays, something a little bit exciting happened too. A friend of mine mentioned to me that our mutual friend had told him that she likes me. Having just been rejected big time with the separation and all, it felt really nice to hear that there is someone out there who thinks so. Especially when I too find her attractive and nice to be around with. When my friend told me the news, I thought that when the time feels right and if the timing is right, I'll make a move. But life rarely goes how I plan, it seems. I ended up meeting her last weekend at a party, and she made a friend zone move on me. To sum it up, we're going out for a cup of coffee soon. As friends, yes, she has gone through something similar in her past and she offered to share her experience with me. I wish to keep this on friend zone, and I hope it stays there naturally. But just to be sure, I prepared a few I too like you but am not ready for anything for a while yet, lines just to be safe. But it feels very welcome to have a chance to grab a cup of coffee with someone who wants to get to know me and who possibly is into me. I just hope I have enough reason in my head to truly take things slowly and to not rush into anything before I am ready. The timing has to be right. 1.5 years later, the last year and a half have taught me that I sure can screw up. I rushed and spent 6 months dating, and then the new relationship crashed gloriously and in a much bigger boom than my divorce. I've read about rebound relationships, and I can see rebound elements in what I went through. That episode left its marks and made me a wee bit more cynical about life and people in general. Me included. I've always been a bit naive, so maybe it was a reality check well needed. I have a feeling that a part of the bigger boom was bottled up anger that I had from the divorce, and that rebound episode did get some reason into my thick skull. I haven't dated since, and I'm slowly starting to feel that I might be ready for something. Perhaps not dating, but ready to figure out what's going on. I still need to figure out what I want in my life. My job and my child take an enormous heap of my time and energy, and I balance those with doing stuff that I love. My hobbies, that is. How do I fit a new relationship into that equation in a way that it enriches our lives? I still have no idea. Some people say that we learn most from our mistakes. What I learned from my rebound relationship is that I'm just stumbling in the dark with no clue about what I'm doing. I'm going to mess up and most likely screw up with relationships in the future too before I get things right. It will take time before I'm really ready for anything lasting. More about that in the next paragraph. And I need to take that to account when moving ahead, meaning that I'll wait for a long while before introducing anyone to my child. Another thing I learned is that I need to allow myself to try things and to make mistakes. And I need to be open about this to anyone I might date in the future as long as I feel it to be the case. Oh, and on the topic of screw-ups, here's one more. For me personally, this is the one that has been the most crushing of all. I've had pets most of my life, and after the divorce I started talking with my child that maybe it'd be time to start thinking about having one again. We spent a year thinking about what pet would be good for our situation and ended up deciding that a cat would be nice. Then the time came, we got a chance to adopt 2 kittens from a farm. We adopted them. But once we got back home, I soon realized that I cannot cope with it. It's really difficult to express with words the sense of threat I felt. I was at a total loss about why and sought out professional help. She helped me understand that the small kittens had brought with them 3 things. 1, change, 2, chaos, and 3, tenderness. Warmth. I was not ready to cope with any of those. After the divorce, my home had become my safe haven, the one place where everything is in order and where I can moderate things that happen. I was not ready to let go of that. So, I did the most responsible thing I could think of doing and sought a new home for the kittens. And in doing so let my child down massively. I haven't felt this level of failure ever in my life. To know that you have let your child down still brings tears to my eyes even to write it down. If anything, good, it made me realize that I seriously need to start working on myself. I'm attending a group next week that deals with the stuff I'm going through, and I hope that with their help I'll gain a better understanding of what kind of help would be good for me. It's funny, maybe ironic, that after the divorce I was afraid my ex's life would bring instability and constant change to my child's life. And now it turns out that my life is just as unstable and a mess. I hope the approaching fall brings something more positive to my life. I'd like to feel like I'm on top of things and building a good foundation for my life for a change. The biggest one was that I realized I am solely responsible for my own future now. I have the freedom to shape it as I like, and I am responsible for how things are in my life. When I was in a relationship, our futures were tied together. We both had our lives, but we also influenced each other's lives. Sometimes being together required compromises or letting go of things I wanted to achieve. For instance, I was, back then, as responsible for myself as I am now, but back then I wanted to take my partner's life into consideration when making my choices. It's time for me to move on and start doing choices that help me move towards the kind of life I want to live. I do not yet know what kind of life that is or what those choices are, but I need to figure that out. Last Saturday something small, but for me, really big happened. I went clubbing for the first time in a year and was dancing with a dear friend. A woman came to us and introduced herself and asked if she could dance with us. She had such a charming smile and she seemed like someone I'd be most happy to go on a date with. I was super nervous at first, but then this calmness just came over me. I remember thinking that this is nice. I'm having a fun evening with dear friends, and now there's this really pretty girl with the most beautiful smile dancing with me, and I want to tell her that. And I told her that she has a really beautiful smile and that her being there makes me smile too. She blushed, covered her mouth for a moment, and then looked me in the eyes, smiled as she did before, and we kept dancing. Me and my friends had to leave and we shook hands and I thanked her for the lovely moment. We didn't exchange numbers. I didn't ask her on a date. It was just the moment and it was so nice. Someday when I'm ready I'm going to be in a similar situation, I'm sure. And then I'll be ready to put my heart out and ask that someone on a date. Last Saturday that was the most perfect thing that could have happened to me. Another thing I did is that I applied to a band. I've been playing instruments for the past 20 plus years of my life, and after my child was born, I left the band I was in at the time. Now that he's 7 I have more of free time, and this felt like a good moment to have something new in my life again. So, I applied to this band and the audition went well. They were very impressed with my playing and offered me a place in their band. I was impressed with how well they seemed to communicate with each other and I liked their songs. So, we shook hands and now, out of the blue, I'm an active musician again. Out of the 2 big steps I've taken, this feels to be the one that has a bigger impact on me. And it feels like the right step to take. It helps me move forward, brings new people to my life and the kind of relationships I feel ready to embrace again. I have a couple of dates still set up and I'm going to see those through, but after that I think I've had enough of dating. It has done wonders, but I still feel that I am not ready for a romantic relationship yet. But once again I feel with more certainty that something good awaits me once I'm ready. My comment: you guys like a story with a good final ending. I think this is more of a positive story to encourage some of you who are listening to this. Stay strong and I will see you in the next story.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.